I was staring at the lavender dress hanging in my wardrobe when they told me I wouldn't be wearing it to my son's wedding. 70 years old, and my own child was locking me away because I might embarrass him. But let me tell you something, and I hope you're listening carefully. Sometimes the most powerful revenge comes from the quietest corners. Before I continue, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. It matters more than you know. Reminds me I'm not alone in this world. My Arthur always said our Daniel had a good heart, just needed the right guidance. Arthur was the steady one, keeping both me and Daniel on track, especially during those difficult teenage years. Now, 5 years after losing my rock, I was trying to provide that guidance alone. Maybe my touch was too soft. Maybe my heart was too easily swayed by my only child. When Daniel first brought Victoria Prescott home, I was cautiously optimistic. She was striking 35, sharp clothes, confidence that filled the room. Daniel followed her with his eyes like a lovesick puppy. "Isn't she wonderful, Mom?" he whispered while she took a call about what sounded like very expensive social engagements. "She's the one." I smiled and offered my best homemade scones. She picked at one, those cool gray eyes taking in my flowered wallpaper and Arthur's worn armchair. "Charming," she said, but the word felt more like a diagnosis than a compliment. The wedding announcement came fast, and I threw myself into the excitement. My boy getting married. I dreamed of welcoming a daughter, of grandchildren filling this quiet house with laughter again. But then the plans started escalating from a simple church service to talk of marquee tents and ice sculptures. That's when Daniel had his brilliant idea about my finances. "Mom, at your age, managing money must be getting difficult," he said, arm around my shoulder, concern in his eyes. "Let me help. Power of attorney just to make things easier. Pay your bills online, manage your pension. You wouldn't have to lift a finger." It sounded so thoughtful. Online banking was becoming a chore, and my eyes weren't what they used to be. So I agreed. He set up a joint account for my pension for transparency, he said. I trusted my son. What mother wouldn't? If you're still listening, I need to know, would you have seen it coming? Write yes if you would have spotted the trap, or no if you'd have trusted like I did. Be honest. The wedding budget seemed to have no limit. My modest contributions were accepted with quick thanks, but Daniel spoke of the main budget he and Victoria were handling. My pension started disappearing faster than it should. When I asked, Daniel always had explanations: property taxes, insurance premiums, safe investments. Always smooth, always plausible. But the numbers in my old ledger book never quite added up. Victoria's presence grew stronger, and with it came subtle campaigns. My home was adorably vintage but desperate for updating. My stories about raising Daniel were met with vacant smiles before she'd steer conversation back to wedding dresses and guest lists that included very few of our old friends. Daniel began echoing her sentiments. My porcelain birds were dust collectors. My mystery novels were pedestrian. He'd sigh just like Arthur used to when truly exasperated, usually when I asked about finances or suggested a simple family dinner instead of discussing canapes. The unease in my heart grew from a prickle to an ache. I felt like a guest in my own life, my opinions pushed aside. My son was becoming a stranger, his values shifting toward Victoria's glossy world. And my pension, my security, was slipping through my fingers to fund a wedding I felt less and less part of. A week before the wedding, they came for dinner. Tuesday evening. I made shepherd's pie, Daniel's childhood favorite, hoping for a moment of connection. They arrived late, Victoria regal in cream, Daniel hovering beside her like an anxious servant. "Mom," Daniel began, avoiding my eyes, fidgeting with his cufflinks. "Victoria and I need to discuss something important about the wedding." My heart fluttered. "Is everything all right, dear?" Victoria stepped forward, smile cool as marble. "Everything will be perfect, Maggie. That's precisely why we need to discuss your arrangements for the day." "My arrangements? I thought I was coming to the church, then the reception. I have my lavender dress ready." Daniel cleared his throat. "Well, Mom, that's the thing. Victoria's family, they're wonderful people, very influential. This wedding is significant for them, for us. Everything must be impeccable." "Impeccable?" Victoria echoed, her gaze sweeping over me like I was something to be catalogued and filed away. "We've been thinking about your comfort," she continued, "and ensuring the day goes without any social awkwardness." "Social awkwardness?" Heat crept up my neck. What are you implying? It's just. Daniel stammered. You have your little ways, your stories. Victoria's parents and their friends are used to certain decorum. We wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable or out of place. Victoria cut in, voice dripping condescension. What Daniel means is you can be unpredictable. Your charming eccentricities might be misinterpreted by distinguished guests. We can't risk embarrassment on such an important day. Embarrassment. The word hung heavy in the air. My son, my future daughter-in-law, telling me I was a potential source of shame. I who had poured my life into raising him, loved him unconditionally. My hands began trembling. Are you saying you're ashamed of me, Daniel? He finally looked at me, eyes pleading but hard with resolve. No, Mom. It's not like that. We just want everything perfect for Victoria. For her family. So, Victoria said brightly, as if delivering wonderful news, we've made a wonderful arrangement. We've booked you a lovely suite at the Willows, that beautiful retirement villa outside town. Like a luxury spa, really. You'll have a quiet, restful weekend. All expenses paid. Spa treatments, massages, whatever you like. Away from all the wedding chaos. I stared at them, mind reeling. A nursing home. They were banishing me to a nursing home on my son's wedding day, so I wouldn't embarrass them. You want me to miss my own son's wedding? I whispered, voice cracking. You want me locked away while you take your vows? It's not an institution, it's a villa, Daniel said quickly, face flushed. Just for the weekend. Friday to Sunday. We'll pick you up Sunday afternoon, bring you cake. It's for the best. You'll be so much more relaxed. Relaxed. My voice rose, trembling with fury I hadn't felt in years. Relaxed knowing my only son is so ashamed of his mother he'd rather hide her away than have her witness his marriage? Knowing you both see me as nothing but a social liability. Now, Maggie, don't get overwrought, Victoria said coolly. It's all decided. The booking is confirmed. A car will pick you up Friday morning. Think of it as a little holiday. Her patronizing tone, Daniel's refusal to meet my gaze, the calculated cruelty of their plan, it was devastating. They weren't just excluding me. They were discarding me, deeming me unfit for their shiny new life. I looked at Daniel, searching for any sign of the loving boy I remembered. But his eyes were cold, reflecting only his fiancée's ambition and his own selfish desires. So this is it, I said, voice flat. This is what 40 years of motherhood amounts to. Being deemed an embarrassment to be hidden away. Neither spoke. Victoria examined her perfect nails. Daniel stared at the carpet. The silence was absolute except for my own betrayed heart pounding. If this was your mother, what would you do? Type fight if you'd stand up for her. Or silent if you'd stay quiet. I need to know there are still people out there who understand right from wrong. The drive to the Willows Friday morning was silent agony. Daniel drove, knuckles white on the wheel. Victoria hummed beside him, pointing out scenery as if we were on a pleasant outing. I sat in back, a prisoner in my son's car. Overnight bag at my feet, heart like a stone. The Willows was impressive manicured lawns, hushed corridors. It smelled of lavender and despair. A smiling woman checked me in, referring to Daniel's thoughtful arrangements for your restful respite. My room was pleasant enough, sterile, with a view of a perfectly lifeless rose garden. A luxurious prison cell where I was to be hidden while my son celebrated his new life. A life from which I was now officially deemed an embarrassment. When the door clicked shut behind them, Victoria offering a final, "Enjoy your little break, Maggie." The full weight of betrayal crashed down. I sank onto the bed, silence amplifying the storm inside. My Daniel, whose first steps I'd guided, whose fevers I'd nursed, whose heartbreaks I'd soothed, how had he become this cold stranger capable of such cruelty? Then it all clicked with horrifying clarity. They weren't just ashamed of me. They were plundering my resources to fund their perfect wedding. My presence would be an inconvenient reminder of their deceit, perhaps even a threat if I started asking pointed questions in front of Victoria's wealthy family. They needed me silenced and controlled. The thought of them laughing, toasting, dancing at their opulent wedding paid for with money Arthur and I worked a lifetime to save, while I sat forgotten in a retirement villa, was unbearable. My grief for Arthur mingled with fresh, hot anger, forging a resolve I hadn't felt in years. I would not be their victim. I would not let them desecrate Arthur's memory and my dignity without a fight. But how? They'd taken my smartphone for safekeeping, dear, so you can truly relax. I had nothing but my handbag and overnight case. My handbag. Victoria had smirked at it. Still carrying that enormous old thing, Maggie? So wonderfully vintage. It was old leather, battered, given to me by Arthur years ago. And because it was so large and unassuming, because they saw me as utterly defeated and harmless, they hadn't bothered to inspect it properly. My fingers fumbled with the clasp, delving into the familiar jumble. Reading glasses, tissues, peppermints, and then, tucked in a hidden side pocket, my heart leaped. My ancient emergency cell phone. A brick from a bygone era. Daniel had mocked it relentlessly as my paranoid granny phone. But Arthur, always practical, had insisted I keep it charged with a prepaid SIM. Just in case, love. Just in case of a real emergency. With trembling hands I pulled it out. Heavy, solid, comforting. I pressed the power button, breath held tight. The small screen flickered to life, 3 bars of signal, nearly full battery. Arthur, my darling, even in death you're still looking out for me. A slow, cold smile spread across my face. They thought they had me trapped. They had no idea about this relic they dismissed. They had no idea their embarrassing mother was about to use her paranoid granny phone to orchestrate very modern, very public justice. Like and subscribe if you want to hear how a 70-year-old woman brought down a wedding with nothing but an old phone and the truth. Because stories like mine deserve to be heard. Saturday morning, Daniel's wedding day, dawned cruelly bright. My restful respite felt like a countdown. But fear had transformed into nervous energy, desperate resolve. Today, my son and his smug fiancée expected to celebrate their union funded by my savings while I was tucked away. They were in for a rude awakening. My first call at 8 sharp was to my bank's fraud line. My heart hammered as I waited. Good morning, First National Bank Fraud Department, Sarah speaking. How can I help you? Good morning, Sarah. I forced calm into my voice, the voice of Maggie Butler, retired school librarian, not the hysterical old woman they believed me to be. My name is Margaret Butler. I'm calling to report suspected unauthorized activity and financial elder abuse on my accounts, perpetrated by my son Daniel Butler, who holds power of attorney. There was a pause. I understand, Mrs. Butler. Can you provide your account numbers and verify your identity? Thank heavens for my habit of keeping numbers written in my address book. I read them slowly, meticulously. Thank you, Mrs. Butler. I see Mr. Daniel Butler is listed as having power of attorney. What are your concerns? My son, I chose my words carefully, has confined me against my will to a facility under the pretext of rest for his wedding today. I've discovered he's been making substantial withdrawals from my pension account, which I believe are for wedding expenses, not my benefit. I fear he's systematically draining my funds. I need an immediate freeze on any account he can access and his power of attorney privileges suspended pending investigation. I am perfectly lucid and competent but currently unable to leave this facility. I added a slight tremor to my voice at the end, just enough vulnerability to counter any notes Daniel might have left about my confusion. Sarah was efficient. Mrs. Butler, these are serious allegations. We'll place an immediate hold on all transactions from specified accounts accessible via power of attorney pending verification. We'll also flag Mr. Butler's POI status for urgent review. Thank you, Sarah. Can you confirm if any large payments are scheduled to clear today from those accounts? She checked. There are several substantial electronic payments scheduled today to various vendors. Catering, floral company, a venue called The Manor. My blood ran cold then hot. The Manor, their lavish reception venue. Daniel was using my money down to the wire. Please ensure those payments do not go through, I said, voice like ice. They'll be blocked by the hold, Mrs. Butler. My next call was to Arthur's pension fund administrators. The process was similar though more bureaucratic. I explained again, voice firm, detailing my son's misuse of funds, my confinement, my demand for immediate suspension of his access. When the representative hesitated, speaking of due process, I was relentless. My son is committing fraud using my pension, his father's hard-earned legacy, to fund a wedding I've been forcibly barred from attending. I'm reporting financial elder abuse. I expect immediate action. I'll be following up with my lawyer, Arthur Henderson, who I'm sure you know by reputation. Arthur's name carried weight in legal circles. After a lengthy hold, the representative returned more serious. Mrs. Butler, given the gravity of your claims and reference to legal counsel, we'll place an immediate administrative freeze on any pre-authorized disbursements from your pension account pending formal review. The second financial artery was clamped shut. I sat on the stiff bed, old phone warm in my hand. It was done. Daniel's access to my money, the money he was counting on had stolen, was still planning to spend, was frozen. He just didn't know it yet. What would happen when those payments bounced? When the florist refused to deliver orchids? When caterers demanded cash Daniel wouldn't have? The wedding was beginning in hours. I could only imagine the chaos about to erupt. They wanted me out of sight. They had no idea that from my gilded cage, I just pulled the financial rug out from under their entire charade. Drop a heart in the comments if you've ever had to fight for what's rightfully yours. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that silence doesn't mean weakness. The first sign my plan had worked came around mid-morning. My phone buzzed, unknown number. Mom, what the hell did you do? Daniel's voice was a strangled shriek. The florists are here with centerpieces and my card just got declined. They're threatening to take everything back if I don't pay cash right now. What did you tell the bank? Cold satisfaction spread through me, so potent it almost eased my heartache. I simply informed them of unauthorized activity on my accounts, Daniel, I said calmly. Activity I believe you're responsible for. Unauthorized? You gave me power of attorney. That money was for us for the wedding. Victoria's parents are arriving any minute. This is a disaster. You have to call the bank. Tell them it's a mistake. There's no mistake, Daniel. The only mistake was you underestimating your mother and disrespecting your father's legacy. The funds you were relying on are no longer available. I heard frantic voices in the background, Victoria's sharp tones rising. Fix it, Daniel. Just fix it. Then Daniel was back, voice cracking. Mom, please. The caterers just called, their deposit check bounced. The venue manager is on his way. You're ruining everything. Victoria's going to kill me. Her parents. Oh God, her parents. I pictured the scene, their carefully constructed facade crumbling. Florists with wilting blooms, caterers with unpaid invoices, the venue manager demanding answers. And Victoria, who found me so embarrassing, about to face very public, very real humiliation of her own. It seems, Daniel, I said quietly, your perfect day was built on lies and theft. Foundations like that rarely hold. I ended the call, hand trembling not with fear but with the force of justice long overdue. The rest of the day, I pieced together the implosion from increasingly frantic voicemails from Daniel and one furious call from Victoria's mother herself before I calmly hung up. Apparently, the Prescotts arrived at the manor to find chaos. Vendors packing up, Daniel white-faced and stammering, unable to produce a working credit card. Victoria in hysterics, makeup streaked with tears, her dream wedding rapidly deflating into unpaid bills and public shame. Mrs. Prescott, upon learning the source of the catastrophe, Daniel's reliance on and fraudulent misuse of his elderly mother's pension, reportedly turned on him with viper's fury, calling him a common con man and disgrace. She swept Victoria away, declaring the wedding and any association with the Butler name definitively off. By late afternoon, Mr. Henderson from the pension fund called. Mrs. Butler, I wanted to confirm Mr. Daniel Butler's power of attorney privileges regarding your pension have been suspended pending fraud investigation. All access is frozen. Your pension funds are secure under your sole control. Once the PO is fully revoked. Relief washed over me, leaving me weak. Secure. My pension, my lifeline, was secure. My future was mine again. The grand wedding of Daniel Butler and Victoria Prescott did not happen. It imploded under bounced checks, furious in-laws, and the quiet, decisive actions of an old woman they deemed too embarrassing to matter. If you think I did the right thing, write justice in the comments. If you think I was too harsh, write forgive. But remember, this was about more than revenge. This was about dignity. A month later, after I'd returned home and spent time by the sea healing, my old phone buzzed. Unknown number, but I knew. Mom. Daniel's voice was broken, stripped of arrogance. Mom, it's me. Danny. He hadn't called himself Danny since boyhood. Conflicting emotions washed over me, pity, anger. That familiar maternal ache. "Oh, Daniel," I said softly. "What a terrible mess you've made." "I know, Mom. I'm so sorry. For everything. For the wedding, for Dad, for the money, for you. Victoria's gone. Her parents despise me. Everyone does. I've lost everything. It was my fault. My stupid, greedy fault. Can you ever forgive me?" His words tugged at something deep, but I knew easy forgiveness would be another form of enabling. "An apology, Daniel, after you desecrated your father's memory, called my grief selfish, and tried to throw me away for your perfect party. I will always be your mother, and part of me will always grieve for the son I thought I raised. But you built this ruin with your own hands. My forgiveness won't fix what you've broken in yourself. Only you can rebuild a life worthy of your father's name. That journey is yours alone to walk." Silence, then a whisper. "I understand, Mom. I hope you do, Daniel. I truly do." I ended the call not with anger but with somber finality. Peace settled over me. I had spoken my truth, drawn my line. The future was uncertain. My relationship with my son perhaps forever fractured. But I was whole, and that was worth more than any wedding celebration. Before you go, let me ask you something. Would you have forgiven him right away? Or would you have stood your ground like I did? Comment below. I read every single one. And if this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to remember their worth. Subscribe to hear more stories from women like me, who've learned that sometimes the quietest voices carry the most powerful truths. Thank you for listening to An Old Woman's Tale. Wherever you are, whatever time it is there, know that you're not alone. We're all out here living our stories, finding our strength. God bless.